What is up and welcome back to another video on high altitude investing. Today we are going to be talking about whether we are about to go into the biggest Bitcoin pump in history. When we look at the chart, we're seeing a lot of really good signs for a big bull market to be coming in the markets, especially Bitcoin leading the markets right now, as we're seeing Bitcoin do a lot of really big runs up in value. And although the short term is always volatile and we see price go up and down on the short term, we're at a 52-week high on Bitcoin right now, and it's definitely starting to show signs of strength. So before we get started, if you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this, and share this video with your friends, and please stay till the very end so you can learn as much as possible. And let's go ahead and get straight into today's Bitcoin analysis. So, will Bitcoin go into the biggest pump in history? Let's start here on Coinbase, because Coinbase is a great place to be able to see both volume and price. It doesn't go all the way back to 2013 like some exchanges have if you go to the BLX chart, but it does have a lot more accurate representation of both retail and institutional trading volume. So even though you don't get all that historical price data, if you're mainly looking at the recent cycles in the big picture like we are here, you don't need all of that historical data back to 2013 to understand the current cycle. Now, when we look at Bitcoin on the monthly candlesticks, you can see how the price is starting to form an uptrend. You can see how we made our first high back here in 2017, our first low down here in 2018, then we have our next major peak here in 2021, and then we go down to our bottom here, basically 2022, 2023. Then we get a bullish engulfing candlestick. Now this is actually extremely significant. It wouldn't really matter so much if it was on like the 4-hour or the 2-hour or 3-hour, but when we're on the 1 month time frame, a bullish engulfing candlestick pattern like this is an extremely strong buy signal that basically suggests that a very large amount of sellers have been washed out, and the big whales, the big players that move the markets, are putting money in. So that signifies a shift in momentum right here, this bullish engulfing candlestick. So just like how volume is a sign of institutional money, which you can see how institutions have been steadily accumulating Bitcoin for years now, because you can see the steady accumulation of institutional volume over time. And the reason why so many retail traders are getting wiped out, even though it's still making a lot of people rich, is because institutional money has been accumulating really since 2018, when they were able to crash the price down to $3,000. They've been playing it and buying all the dips that they can. Now, when institutional money is playing something like Bitcoin, that's where you get these huge swings up, this crash back down, all this volatility that happened since 2017, both up and down, was a result of institutional money getting retail excited and then short selling and crashing the market so they can pick it up cheaper. So they were basically able to wash out a lot of retail investors since 2017 until today. The reason that they do that is so that they can get people to give up. They can get people to panic sell the bottoms, because if they get a lot of people to give up and panic sell the bottoms, they have liquidity, they have volume to buy these dips. It sounds savage, it sounds kind of ruthless and stuff, but this is just the reality of the way that publicly traded markets work. Whales and big players want to see blood in the streets because they know that average everyday investors are panic selling these bottoms and they're able to buy large positions at really low prices. So that's why we have so much volume over time, is institutional money is basically taking advantage of retail investors that are getting wiped out and washed out in these huge swings. And that gives them the volume to be able to buy these dips. But what happens is a lot of times is people give up. That is why they don't make money. That's why we as investors, if we don't give up, we're able to make money over time. Every single time that I've extracted large sums of money out of the crypto markets, it's always been because I didn't give up, right? In 2018, price went from $20,000 down to $3,000, completely wiped out $1 million portfolio. I spent a lot of money too, to be frankly honest with you, and had a lot of expenses and luxury apartments and buying BMWs cash without debt, and just one BMW, but spending a lot of money on different things. I was spending tons of money too, but the markets also dropped 90%. A lot of my money was in altcoins. I had Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin at the top here, but by the time the bottom of the market came, I still had money left over. In fact, over periods of years, I was still finding money in random places, exchanges and stuff. But the majority of my money by the bottom of 2018 had been wiped out, but I didn't stop trading and investing. And when 2021 came around, boom, a bunch of money because I didn't give up. But what most retail money does is they give up. Even if you lose a lot of money in a crash, giving up is exactly what the big players and the whales want you to do. They want you to go into USD right here, right where the bullish engulfing candlestick happens, where there's a shift in momentum in the big picture, and a lot of people are shaken out at those lows. They want people to go into USD right there, when that's exactly where they should be taking their USD, where we should be taking our USD and putting it in. So will Bitcoin go into a massive pump here? We do have all of the big picture structure for it. We even have a nice uptrend line here. You can see this is a very, very major support trend line that we've bounced significantly off of. So I do believe that Bitcoin will break above this resistance level with confidence and be able to push up through that $69,000 resistance level. You can see that we have a lot of strength and a lot of volume and a lot of institutional money, and that is going to fuel and drive prices as demand is increasing, because the demand for Bitcoin is extremely high right now. And every time bad things happen in the world, you'd think that would be bad for Bitcoin. But right after 2020 and all through the pandemic, look what happened to the price of Bitcoin. So people actually view Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, and they're able to earn a lot of money when things are going crazy in the world. It doesn't happen right away. This was when the pandemic started. Prices still crashed in the short term, right when the news about the pandemic came out. But as time went on, all the chaos and stuff about the pandemic actually fueled prices in Bitcoin. And so the same thing right now, the world, there's a lot going on in the world, but we're seeing the price of Bitcoin increase as people are viewing this as a safe haven asset, because we need somewhere as a people to place our money that isn't going to go to zero as a result of hyperinflation in banks. And Bitcoin is one of those assets that we're able to invest in to do that, to counter hyperinflation. And so that's why I do believe, that's another reason why I do believe as Bitcoin breaks above that $69,000 level, as demand continues to increase, we will see the price of Bitcoin accelerate first up to 100,000 per coin. And then, who knows where it's going to stop from there. But once it breaks resistance and goes into an uptrend, that's what we call price discovery. And price discovery basically means nobody knows how high it's going to go, but I'm not going to try to short it because it's going crazy. And that happens a lot in markets. That's what happened to the stock market after the internet bubble crash. It broke out, made a new all-time high, and then it started going into price discovery. It's discovering prices it's never been in before. When a market's in price discovery, you really don't want to fight it. And they say the trend is your friend. Bitcoin is in an uptrend. It's been in an uptrend since the inception of Bitcoin, since it was created and since it's been publicly traded. It's been in an uptrend. It's had down swings just like stock market does, but it's in an uptrend and the trend is your friend. So as you go into price discovery, that's as the trend starts to accelerate faster and faster and faster, and it really starts to take off here, and you just don't know how high it's going to go. But you definitely don't want to be on the side of the bears, and you definitely don't want to be missing out when that happens, and you definitely don't want to buy when everybody's excited. So right now, where people are still skeptical, price is only at 43,000 per coin. There's a lot of upside, and people say, well, how can something go to 100,000 per coin? It has to do with market capitalization. Market capitalization is supply times price. The reason that something with a really low supply can go to a very high price per unit, like per Bitcoin unit, is because of the fact that it has a low supply. So there's 7 billion plus people in the world. There might even be 8. I haven't looked in a minute. And there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And Bitcoin can be infinitely divided. It's a fractional thing. So you can have 0.00001 Bitcoin, and it doesn't matter. You can send it to your friend just like you could send a penny to your friend if there was a system that had low enough fees, which there isn't, which is another reason why Bitcoin is so cool. But because there's only 21 million Bitcoin, 7 billion people plus, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of real estate, actual money supply, cash flow in the world, that if only a very small percentage of the Forex trading market volume went into Bitcoin, the price is going to shoot well over 100,000 per coin. And I'm not saying it's going to stay up there, but you can see that a low supply plus a lot of demand will increase the price very high because there's only 21 million Bitcoin. So it's a scarcity thing. It's like gold. Gold is valuable because it's hard to mine gold. It's scarce, and because of the low supply and the difficulty in mining it, and that it has a real value, gold is actually useful, just like how Bitcoin is actually useful. It increases its value over time. So that's really cool, right? You can have a low supply, only 21 million Bitcoin. That's why the price can go up to 100,000, 200,000. That's why it's at $43,000 right now, because it's a low supply, high demand, actually useful thing. That's why it got so big as it's gotten already. We're in that mainstream phase with Bitcoin. We're starting to go into that mainstream adoption phase. And that's when things really go crazy. So yeah, I do believe Bitcoin will have this huge pump in value. Just the stock market, the Dow Jones is breaking out right now, just as I said it would. And if you go back 7 months ago to my older Bitcoin video, the one that I made 7 months ago, I clearly discuss in that video, hey, you guys, just so you know, Bitcoin is going to start breaking out. It was at $16,000 per coin 7-8 months ago when I made that video, why I'm buying Bitcoin. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. And Bitcoin went from $16,000 to $44,000. So what we've been watching for in the stock market and in Bitcoin are both happening exactly as we planned, which is really cool, That's cool to see. So you can see when a new market cycle starts, there's always that breakout and then prices have to pull back. Then it breaks out again and prices have to pull back again. But people just keep pushing it higher because big whales are playing the uptrend. They understand that the trend is their friend. So that's what we do too, is we identify this trend. We're able to position ourselves in the dip, and we're able to play this big picture trend. And even if you have losses along the way, the trend is your friend. It's just like the stock market. Over time, you're going to make money, right? It's just that with stocks, you're not going to make near as much as you can with Bitcoin. So that's really cool, right? You can see that the price of a market, when it starts an uptrend, has to have pullbacks along the way. Those pullbacks end up washing people out. They end up washing investors out. And what happens most of the time is people give up. It's okay to get washed out a few times if you're learning investing. In fact, most professional investors that I've talked to that were millionaires completely lost their portfolio at least once or twice before they got it down, right? And it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't happen every time, but it's very common for professionals to say that. And if you ask an entrepreneur that starts a business, a lot of those guys will say, yeah, I was washed out a couple times too, learning how to run a company, right? It doesn't have to happen, but if it does, the most important thing is that you don't give up, right? You're going to make mistakes no matter what in any endeavor that you do. But the most important thing is that you don't give up. If you're serious about learning investing, don't give up. Keep practicing. If you get washed out, don't give up. Keep learning. Keep applying. Don't get discouraged. That's exactly the way that you lose in life, is you get discouraged. You start thinking like somebody that isn't in a winner's mindset. And it happens a lot, but you can see how fundamentally this Bitcoin cycle is not that big of a difference between cycles we've seen previously. There's more volatility because institutions are pulling retail out of the market. They're creating conditions that have a lot of people giving up on the markets, getting a lot of people to give up, right? But really the structure is exactly the same. There's really not a big difference in market structure. And this is the cycle on the bottom is the cycle where I first got into Bitcoin and it went way high, changed my life forever. The cycle on the top is what's happening right now. So when people tell me, oh, Dallin, you got lucky, I tell them, no, I use principles. You can do it too. And opportunity repeats. There's always opportunity in life. In fact, economic downturn is actually the greatest opportunity you could possibly have. The Great Depression, as bad as it was for people, is why we went into prosperity afterwards, because it taught people humility, it taught people persistence. All the people that weren't serious about, getting their life together, about figuring out a way to make money, they got wiped out and washed out. The people that wanted people to give them jobs, there was people that were going around saying, hey, give me a job, give me a job. Of course they got the door slammed on them in the Great Depression. But there were people in the Great Depression that were making millions of dollars because they were learning about what companies needed. And instead of asking for jobs, they'd go to places and be like, hey, look, I've got solutions to your problems. So I'm just using millions of dollars as an example. I don't know exactly how much they made, but I did study people in the Great Depression. There were people that thrived, that were extremely successful because they studied what the company needed. And instead of asking for a job, they provided value up front and said, look, I know all this stuff about your industry. This is what could help increase your sales. Because most companies in the Great Depression didn't want to give people jobs because they needed ways to make more money themselves. So there were people that were really smart that figured out how to provide value to these other people, these companies, these businesses, and they thrived during the Great Depression. They didn't ask for a job. They figured it out. That's what I'm saying. Economic downturn, corrections, really brings out, is this person really what he says he is? Is this person really going to persist, right? And when something crashes, when something drops, the tendency for most people is to never touch it again. Oh, got a bad taste in my mouth because I lost a little bit of money on Bitcoin. It must be not for me, and they give up. But I'm here to tell you that the best investors and traders in the world had that exact same moment, but instead of saying they're going to give up and it's not for them, they said, what can I learn from this and how can I do better? And that has to be us when we're learning how to invest in these markets if we want to come out on top. So yeah, I do see a lot of the same structure here. It looks exactly, Bitcoin almost looks like how when I first got into Bitcoin. There's a lot of similarities, and I believe we're headed into a huge bullish run here with Bitcoin. This would provide a very excellent opportunity for people that are looking to turn, 25x, 10x, 30x gains. Who knows exactly how high Bitcoin is going to go from here? Not going to give you an exact zone because nobody knows, right? In the VIP, we have areas that we say, look, every cycle stops around this area, so keep an eye on it. But nobody knows exactly how high it's going to go. But you could 10 times your money. And on a lot of altcoins, you could have 30x, 40x, 25 times. It's not going to happen overnight. Takes a year or two, whatever. But that is the realistic truth about these markets. So yeah, I do think Bitcoin is going to go into the biggest pump in history. It's going to reach prices it's never been before. It's going to have a market cap that blows people's minds. And we're about to really see this industry go into the mainstream adoption phase that we've been watching for, because institutions have just been accumulating. They've been positioning themselves. And everything is set up now for them to reap the rewards of all of their work, because they've been setting up companies and stuff. And, you know, not all institutions are bad. When I make these videos, it kind of sounds like I'm painting the whales out to be bad people, but a lot of them really aren't. They just know that people get too excited, and when they start panic selling, they're going to buy those dips up because they have companies around these ideas, and they know that these companies are going to provide real value to the world, right? And so a lot of these whales buy the dip and create companies and accumulate institutionally over time, because they know that this technology is going to change people's lives and be very beneficial for society. And although if they're manipulating the markets, it's never okay. If people are just scared and they're panic selling the dip, you know, then I don't see why it's wrong for institutions to say, you know what? People are having an emotional response. We have companies around blockchain. We know it's going to be a big deal. Let's buy up all their fear because they're going to sell anyways. And then all their companies start flourishing, and these institutions see the results of all of their efforts. So we're going to see the results of all of our efforts too if we ride along with the institutions, which is really what all professional investors are doing, right? They're buying where big money's buying. That's what any good investor will teach you, how to find where big money is buying. That's what they teach, right? And that's why they're able to make money, because they trade along with the whales, the market makers. These are the people that buy the dips, that scale out when it's overvalued. And not all of them are market manipulators. Some of them are just market makers. But if you can find them, those are the guys to go to. So yeah, I'm super excited about Bitcoin. We're going to see a huge bull market, you guys. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming with Bitcoin. Also, it's not just Bitcoin. There's so many altcoins out there. Like AVAX, for example, is breaking out of its bottom formation too. And AVAX is a perfect example of a market cycle. Beautiful, beautiful chart. This is one of those examples of a coin that could do 25, 30x, who knows? But I will tell you that these market cycles exceed expectations, because retail money sells the bottom and institutions are like, holy cow, I can't believe they're selling it for $8, because they know it's going to be worth like 140 in the future or 500 in the future. And one last thing here before I go today, the stock market and Bitcoin have a 90% correlation. So when I say, hey, look, Bitcoin is going to go crazy, what I'm really saying is the world economy is going to continue this massive uptrend. This is the Dow Jones, and you can see that the Dow Jones is breaking its all-time high right now, exactly what we said it would. If you go back and watch those videos about 7 months ago, out of a bullish flag pattern. So go watch yesterday's video about double tops, because we talk a little bit about bullish flag patterns. This pattern is very bullish, and it's a continuation pattern. So it means that just how we kept having another leg up, if you don't know what a leg up, it's just a pump. That's what's going to happen on Bitcoin. What I believe, it's not financial advice, but what I believe will happen on Bitcoin. You can see here that also with the Dow Jones, we have this bullish flag. Boom, it breaks out, comes back down to support, and out of that actually forms a bigger triangle structure here. This is called an inverted triangle. It breaks out of that inverted triangle structure, and look how bullish. But there's just so many patterns out there that are so important to learn, that can really help you. They're super simple to learn, easy to learn. You can find them all on Google Images, and bullish flag pattern is a very, very useful one. But you can see how the stock market's breaking out right now. So it's getting ready for another leg up. This is what's called the parabolic move. What happened in Bitcoin when it went from being worth about $10,000 to $20,000? It happened really fast. And when it happened, that's what's called a parabolic blow off top. It's basically everybody's getting so excited that it's going overvalued. That's what a blow off top is. People get too excited and prices go crazy. And it always leads to a huge correction. So when Bitcoin went from being worth about $10,000 here, about 10,000, all the way up to 20,000, that's a blow off top. It always leads to a big correction. The reason that the Bitcoin markets are set up so perfectly right now is because the Dow Jones is actually, and the world stock market is actually going into a blow off top. So of course money is going to flood into all these new industries. And let's make the chart a little bit bigger. You can actually scale it so it starts to look a lot more like that Bitcoin chart we were just looking at. And if you scale this chart out a little bit and zoom out to where you can see what's going on, you can see how when Bitcoin went from 10,000 to 20,000, it did its blow off top. But the Dow Jones is also set up to do a blow off top. And I'm not going to say how high it's going to go. I'm just shooting in the dark here, right? It could go like that, could go like that, could go like this, barely even go up. I don't think it will. I think it'll be more something like that. But a blow off top is essentially coming or set up to come in these markets. So that's what we're looking for. This is my personal view on the markets. Take it for what it's worth, but I have been doing this for a long time. I do believe that we will see a huge pump in Bitcoin, and I do believe we will see a huge pump in the Dow Jones, the stock market as a whole, gold, a lot of things are undervalued. This always happens right before a big Great Depression, and I think that's what we're headed for. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in to today's video. My name is Dallin Anderson. Go follow me on Twitter. Also check out the website, link in the description below, and join our free Discord chat channel community. It's just a server where you can talk with other people who are like-minded investors that like to also trade these markets and find patterns. So if you're looking to find other people to talk to, as well as a community of investors, then check out the Discord links in the description below. And as always, stay profitable out there.